Well, thank you very much for coming today. We prepared some information for you that I hope will be helpful as you work with international students. But before we start, some introductions. My name is Maria Costa. I have been with International Programs and Services for 20-some years. I was an international student here myself. So I work with a process that changed a lot since I was an international student, but still very cumbersome. And you'll get you through some of those steps. But we also have some people from the international team here, and I would like for them to introduce themselves.
I'm Danielle Olmo. I'm one of the international advisors. I handle the countries that start with J and end with Z.
Hi, I'm Carla Leibold. I'm the other international student and scholar advisor, and I handle students from countries starting with the letters A through I.
I'm the secretary.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we just introduce your name and what department you're representing, so we get to know you a bit?
Me?
Yeah.
Megan Miller, I'm from graduate school.
Okay.
Ian Steidel, I work in the University Advisement Center.
Okay, Katie?
I'm Katie Jeter. I work at the Dean's Office in the College of Pharmacy.
Okay, again, thank you for coming by. As you notice, we have two international student advisors. We just got our second position added to international programs a few months ago, and that represents the number of international students, the increasing number of international students, and our need to have more staff. So we are happy that we now have more help. So here's the Here's the purpose of our presentation is a generic overview of immigration procedures ETSU must follow to enroll international students. Our ability to enroll international students require that we have authorization from the federal government. And in return for enrolling international students, we have to a series of processes that we have to follow, including tracking the students. The tracking process came about in full force after 9/11. And then hope to clarify the international administrative process, student administrative processes that we have in place in order to assist the students in coming into the United States. Okay, I'm giving you a brief overview of a generic overview of immigration. Some of these terms you may already know. The first one is the F1 visa. The majority of international students on campus would be on the F1 visa, and that means that they had to apply for an F1 visa. They have to follow some guidelines pertaining to being in this category. You will also see other students, international students, who may have a different visa, but they are not, we are not required to track them for immigration purposes. All right, we have two new members of the audience. Could you please introduce yourself? We're trying to figure out who everybody is.
Wendy Williams, College of Pharmacy Student Affairs, and Katie didn't give us a ride, so I'm mad at her.
She wanted to be here early.
Steve Ellis, College of Pharmacy.
Okay, thank you for coming by. And I don't know, Steve, do you know everybody? You guys know everybody in our office?
No, I do not know
okay.
the person running the computer or the individual.
Or the other person.
Or the other person, yeah.
I'm Carla Leibold. I'm one of the new international student advisors, and I work with students and J scholars from countries beginning with the letters A through I.
And another student, international student advisor. My name is Danielle Olmo, and I work from J to Z.
And I understand you know Ms. Noble. Yes. Okay, so we are at the little bit of the immigration overview. So F1 visa is what our students have to have in order to come and attend ETSU. Some other visas allow students to attend school. Some don't. Some visas are not appropriate for studying, like the visitor's visa or the visitors for business. SEVAS is the Homeland Security database for international students and scholars. So it is the Student Exchange Visitor Information System, and the platform that we use to track international students, issue I-20s, which is the next one on the list, is the form that our students will have to have from ETSU in order to go to the consulate and apply for the visa. The I-20 is just a piece of the whole package of visa application. They have to fill out a State Department form. They have to pay a visa fee as well as a SEVAS fee associated with the I-20. They have to provide financial documentation and so on and so forth. And all these things we communicate to the students. This is not something you would be you're doing yourself or anybody at ETSU. Our department will be responsible for that. So we are also required by law to come up with a cost of attendance for international students, which is very similar to an out-of-state domestic student, and we added a few more things. And the reason for the cost of attendance is the next item. International students must document that they have sufficient funds to cover that cost of attendance. It has to be money that is immediately available to them. And Ms. Noble would be the one, working with the students to obtain all this documentation, and we can accept, scholarship information as part of that documentation, government documentation that they have, support and so on and so forth. So. Scholarship documentation, however, cannot come directly from the student. It must be from the source providing the scholarship. The visa application is the time that the students are, I think, the most nervous, because there's always a possibility that they would be denied the visa. So we try to prepare them the best that we can. What you need to know what you're going to do. If the consulate official asks you, why do you want to study pharmacy? I don't know. I might decide to go do something. It's really, you have to know why you're planning to come, and why this particular major. You will see sometimes students come in and they have general studies or undecided at the undergraduate level. That's a bad idea. But they do what they need to do, and it's more of an issue in some countries than others. In African countries, the visa application process can be very tough. And there's a high number of denials, and there's nothing we can do. It's a denial is over unless they have, they have more different documentation that they can support, they can provide, and they have to pay the fee again, and so on and so forth. With the visa application, our students are having to overcome two assumptions: that they don't have the sufficient funds to support themselves, and that they have an intent to immigrate. So they have to prove that they don't have an intent to immigrate, and then they have sufficient funding. The funding is a little easier than the intent to immigrate, but if you have an 18-year-old person with no jobs, the family has no property, it's very hard for that person to prove that he has or she has the intent of returning home. So it's a tough time for the students. And arrival date for new students. That's and we're talking here about students who are coming from home to the United States for the first time. Students cannot enter the United States more than 30 days before the reporting date on the Form I-20. If they do come in, there's a great possibility they're going to put back in another return home flight next day, would be unable to enter. The other immigration form is an I-94, which is arrival departure documentation. If your students have a GA, if they have any on-campus employment, that's one of the documents they will also need. Thank you. Okay, this is the I-20, and it's now a form that we print and send to the students, but Homeland Security and the SEVA system, it's this SEVP, or the Student Exchange Visitor Program, they're trying to go totally electronic on their documentation. So in a couple of years, probably this is going to be emailed to the student, and the students will have more responsibilities in terms of updating their addresses and so on and so forth. But right now, we have to physically mail the document to them. They cannot go to the consulate for the visa unless they have this. Okay. Okay, this is what a visa passport looks like. We look at students have to have a passport that's valid at all times. A student have to have a visa to enter the United States, but they don't have to have a valid visa to remain in the United States. And that's something we deal with. Sometimes the department is completing an I-9, for example, and you have to have a series of documentation. One could be the visa, but if the visa is expired, they say, but I can't accept. Yes, you can if the person has a valid I-20. And this is the first step, the first document to go online is the I-94. It used to be a card, a white card, and the students we would have to staple the passport so the students wouldn't lose, because it's $120 to get a second replacement. So I still have mine. For you to have an idea, the size of my I-94, it's about this big. It had 3 or 4 sessions. I came in years past, let's say. Years past. 1985 was, 1982 was the first time, 1985 the second, so I still have that. Thank you. All right, now I'll ask Melissa that she will talk a little bit about the process that she goes through to help the students.
Am I on? Okay. Okay, after our office is notified with undergrad admissions and the graduate studies office, I begin a file on each of these students. We can't start any processes in our office until the student is actually officially accepted to ETSU. So hopefully the people in undergrad admissions and graduate studies, they will copy me on the acceptance letter that they send to the student. With admissions, undergrad Michelle Frisch will send me a copy of the letter, and then through campus mail she will also send me their application. Graduate studies does it a little different. The graduate specialist will copy me on the letter, and then I can go into the S drive and retrieve the application myself. The reason we need that application is because when we start emailing these students, we not only try to email them by the ETSU Gold Mail, we want their personal email, because so many of them are really slow about hooking up to their Gold Mail. And if we just send it to that email address, sometimes they never respond to our emails for the documentation that we need. Then I will go and we monitor the merit scholarship, the International Merit Scholarship, and I can go into the system and see if they have applied for that scholarship. Once again, we can't do anything until the student is officially accepted to ETSU. But if their application is complete and there's a legitimate E-number, that's the first clue when you look and there's a odd looking number there, pretty much you can check they're not through the process yet. But I will check that, make sure it's complete. You have to have at least one recommendation letter. They like 2, but I can send it to the committee with 1. The graduate goes, I will send those to Dr. Maxson, and then the undergrad will go to 3 people who are on the committee, and once they make a decision, they copy me on whatever they send to the student. Then I start looking for any documentation that I might have gotten an email. To give you a good example, Dr. Kumar, when he offers a GA or a TS position, he immediately copies me as soon as he has made that offer. So I know that they will be getting that scholarship. And just like Maria said a few minutes ago, a lot of the students will email me and say, oh, I was offered a GA position with the biology department. Well, that's good, but that I can't do anything with that until I actually get confirmation from that department that it has been offered. If I have that information previous, I will add it to the email that I send them. And in the email I send, if they're a transfer student, the email will give them instructions on how to do a transfer, because we have to have the records from their previous institution to transfer into ETSU for CVIS. So I will send them that email. The other email, and it tells them the financial documentation that we will need. If I know that they've received a scholarship, I'll put that amount in the email. Then I'll give them a balance of, okay, we need further financial documentation in the amount of this much. Then they know that's what they have to send to our office. Sometimes with the applications we get, especially with undergrad, the student has already sent the financial documentation, a copy of their passport or visa, to the admissions office. And so the people there will just simply staple it to the application and send it on to us. If we haven't received that, then in the email we'll say, hey, we need a copy of your passport, and we also need mailing instructions. How do you want us to send this to you? Do you want us to send it by regular mail, which is no cost, or do you want us to send it by express mail? Then after I do that, I go on to Banner and I put a hold on their accounts for immigration documentation. That's to make them come to our office and check in officially, because by law they have to come in face to face. They can't call in, they can't say, hey, I'm here. They have to physically come into our office. And I also put a TB hold, but we do not remove that hold. Only the student health clinic can remove the TB hold. And the flags are in effect until the first day of classes for that term. Okay, I just told you that we send the email requesting all that documentation, and just recently, since I started in May, it's been approved that the documents can be scanned and emailed or faxed to us. The financial documentation must not be older than 6 months old prior to the start of the semester. So that's always sometimes I've gotten bank statements all the way back to 2012, and that just won't work at all. If a student receives the GATS, like I said, I calculate its value and notify the student. And then I told you about the express mail. I guess I was jumping ahead of myself. The express mail, they have to provide us with a credit card to have that mailed out to them. And of course, it's the quickest way. We do encourage a lot of the countries, like the African countries and China and places like that, it's very difficult to get the I-20s there, that they use the express mail, because by regular mail sometimes it can take 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. Then once I get all these documents together and I flag everything to try to make it easier to preview, then I give the file, I give the file to the international advisor, either Danielle or Carla. And after the student receives their I-20, it's their responsibility to apply for the visa. And it's their responsibility also to make their travel arrangements. And we only pick up at Tri-Cities Airport, so we encourage them to fly in there. If they fly into Knoxville, we don't go and pick them up. So we direct them to a section on our website called Newly Admitted Students. And there are about 7 or 8 items, and it's very detailed. It will tell them about immigration. It will tell them about immunization. It will tell them about travel to the United States. It will tell them about housing Any question that they have about coming to ETSU should be in this at the website. Students are encouraged also to check their GoldLink account and sign up for Gold Alert. Like I said previously, sometimes it's hard to get them to sign up with that Gold Mail, but we just wanted to give you an example here of how important it can be that students do sign up for Gold Alert.
It's a ham. It's so funny.
Oh, wow. Hello? I'm in here. Hello? Hello? Hey, is anybody there? Hello? Anyone? Hey! Hey! Hello? Where are you guys? Hey, guys! Is anybody around? Hey guys, what? Where are they?
This is the extent that we have to go to make students really pay attention that they need to check their Gold Mail account, that because they won't. It's 3 years later, and you know they have never checked their email. So RJ, the zombie there, was our former international student advisor. So they record this in a Sunday. So, and then RJ, you know, he's going home still dressed as a zombie, and he doesn't stop at a stop sign. So there is a cop, and so the cop stops him, and here he is, all dressed up in blood and all that. And then the cop looks in the back seat of his car, and he does kung fu. So there are several weapons. Yes, swords. So he's being told to put his hand on the wheel, the steering wheel, and you know, come out of the car, all those types of things. So it was a funny arrangement. But this was something the students did, a student in communication did for us. But I wanted to mention something that Melissa talked about the airport pickup. Last summer, you know, I think Tennessee, in the context of the U.S., looks really small. And, you know, we had a student who flew to Nashville and took a taxi from Nashville to Johnson City. So it was $500, you know. And I don't know, I mean, it's just because they don't read the materials. So deadline for issuance of the I-20s. We consult with the admissions office, we're graduate studies, to determine what is a cutoff date for issuance of I-20s if the students are at home. Because, for example, by November 15th, if they don't have everything at home, it's almost impossible to get an interview date, get all the documentation together to be here by the reporting date of January the 14th. Now, we probably, if the College of Pharmacy will start admitting international students, your semester is a different date. Start date is different, isn't it? When is that? Early August?
Yeah.
So we then will have to have a different reporting date for your students based on you know, your beginning date and your orientations, our orientations for your students, and so on and so forth. So we'll have to think of that. But we don't take any international students for the summer unless the program starts in the summer. Like there's the nursing program that is, from summer to summer. But aside from that, we don't, because we just don't have the classes for students to take. And as a rule, our deadline for issuance of I-20 is mid-July and mid-November for students who are outside the country. Students are transferring from another school from another U.S. school to ETSU is fine. We can work with them. But in many countries, students need at least a couple months, especially if there's a lot of traffic in that consulate for visa interviews and so on and so forth. Okay. I already talked about some of these issues. The students are not allowed to enter the United States more than 30 days before the reporting date on their I-20 for the spring semester was December 14th is the earliest that they can come in. But they are encouraged to arrive as early as possible, but no later than that date in the I-20, which will be January the 14th. Melissa mentioned this too. Students are required by law to check in person with our office. We have to see them. We have to copy their documents. And with check-in, we also do a little bit of advisement on immigration, even though we repeat that advisement at what we call briefing. We used to call it orientation, but there are so many orientations on campus, for undergraduate students, for graduate students, departmentals, that we thought maybe it would call more attention. Now, another thing that may be important to know, we thought, was that international students cannot be enrolled in a full online program. They are supposed to enroll for at least, if they're undergraduates, 9 hours of regular classes. They cannot take, 3 hours of on-ground course credit and the rest online. That's not possible. The Saudi Arabian students are a different story. They may not be able to take many online courses at all, so their requirements from the Saudi government, so they would have to work closely with their advisor at the Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission in ETSU as well. And for the spring, we always notify our students that we are closed during the Christmas break, and if they make plans to arrive at that time, then they have to make arrangements themselves.
Maria, question.
Sure.
The full-time status, do they have to maintain full-time at all times, or is that more with their initial?
No, they have to be at all times. There are some exceptions. They must be enrolled full-time for the fall and spring semesters. And then if at their last semester of studies they don't need more than full-time, then they take what they need, and it's okay. The first semester, if they are having difficulties with the language, we may allow them to take less than the full-time requirement. If they're sick and they have a letter from the doctor saying we're not recommending this person to take more than 6 hours this semester, so on and so forth. But that, yes, as a rule, until you're done, you were supposed to be full-time. All right. Another thing about employment, we tell students, you're here, the F1 visa says that you're here to go to school full-time. So you can work, but the work opportunities are going to be very limited. So international students are allowed to work on campus up to 20 hours a week during the fall and the spring semesters. If they can find a job in the summer, they can work full-time. But any more hours than that, then they will be violating the terms of their status, and they would be considered to be illegal in the U.S. and lose everything, lose their opportunity to be a GA, any other scholarships that require some sort of service commitment or work commitment. Students don't have to be in school in the summer, but if they're in school in the summer and they can find a student worker position, that's fine as well. And then off-campus employment is possible under limited circumstances. Let's say they're in a doctoral program like public health that requires 9 hours of an internship. That's considered employment. So they can do that, and they have to have special permission, authorization in writing from the International Student Advisor, and so on and so forth. Did I forget anything about employment, guys? No, I have been doing this for a long time, but then since RJ and Megan were here, I was a little, I kept up with it, but I'm rusty. So
The only other thing we might mention is that the on-campus work authorization, it does include things located on campus, even if they're not owned by ETSU. So the Starbucks, for example, is a place where international students could work, the one on campus only, not any of the off-campus ones. So that's just a little exception that sometimes offers a little bit more flexibility for them to find a job.
I want to tell you something. A lot of our students are on a very tight budget, and they are doing an honorable thing trying to find a job. And sometimes they will push they wanted to find ways to get things. So we say, no, you can't work more than 20 hours. You have a GA. There may be an issue with graduate school as well, but immigration says you can. So they go to the cafeteria, and they ask for a job. What happens is normally the cafeteria calls us to say if this person is okay to work, but they sometimes they will do that. They will, try to get more hours because they need to pay the rent, that type of thing. We try to help them. Let's say they're going through a tough spot. There's the Buc-ee's food pantry, that type of thing. But you will see, and then sometimes you will go to a restaurant and you will see one of your students being a server, and getting really nervous because you're there. But we don't work for immigration. So whatever they do outside is between the student and immigration if they get caught. If they work more than they should on campus, then we have to make a decision. We have to deal with it because we know we have documentation that they did so. But we're going to show you just a
internship. When you talk about public health and the working aspect of it, because obviously in a program like pharmacy or medicine, they because we don't use the term internship, but they're going to be out doing the things that they have to do as part of the program. So to me now, is that only problematic if money's involved? Because obviously, our students aren't receiving any kind of compensation.
Yeah.
It's strictly an educational experience.
Yeah, if it is, employment would imply that they are being paid for services provided. So that's the only case. And for immigration purposes, if it may not be that they're working for money. It may be a situation where they're getting being paid for gas and something like that, that might be something we need to look at. And just for the safety of the student at the end, once they apply for other immigration status, we need to document as much as we can.
Should not be problematic.
Oh, no.
That students can receive by our accrediting body. So.
Okay, all right. So we have another video that we thought maybe we'd show.
Hey, I got a job offer.
Hey, Martine, that's great. So, what are the conditions of the job?
Yeah, the pay is really, really good.
That's awesome. Is it on campus?
What? No, it is on campus.
He's the one who wrote and directed and filmed everything. So he's working in New York and doing really well.
Hey, Martine, you're back.
I got a new job offer, and this time is on campus. And it is full time.
Full time? You mean 20 hours?
What? No, it's 40.
If we don't do that. All right, they pay attention to these things more than they pay attention to how we are telling them. So,
One second.
that's all right. We're not in a hurry. Okay, so here's some of the ways that maybe you can help us if you're dealing with international students. It's to encourage them to read the information online, to encourage them to register for classes before they arrive. And the reason for that is we have a lot of students who come in and they don't have their immunization. Not a lot. We have students who come in who they don't have their immunization. It's the day before classes begin and they're still trying to do MMRs and things like that. So that means, you know, they're going to be charged for late registration fee. It's really messy. And top of that, they're jet lagged, they miss their families, their food, everything. It's really a very stressful time in their lives, and they can really minimize that stress with some planning. And then if a student comes to you with an immigration question, that you refer them to us. In most cases, the student came to us first to ask the question, got a no for an answer, got an answer that they're not happy with. So they're trying to find somebody who could, you know, give them a different answer. So, and sometimes because, you know, they feel more comfortable with you, I guess. If you could copy any correspondence to the student, to Melissa Noble, all your correspondence with the student regarding acceptance or any scholarship offers, and if possible, when you do scholarships, that you give us a value, because we have to use that value in the I-20. And if you would let us know in advance what your orientation dates are for that semester, and it helps us because we have orientation. Our orientation is always during that week before classes begin. Check-in is start a couple weeks before classes begin. So trying to maybe coordinate things and remind students that check-in and the briefing attendance is mandatory. And if possible, you know, if there's something that is being you schedule at the same time that our briefing, for example, if there is any way that you could be flexible and allow the student to come in to briefing and then, you know, join you later if possible. And another thing that you can help us is to issue employment letters. International students who have an on-campus job will need a letter from the job, the person, the department offering the job, so they can have a Social Security number. So that's where we need something from you, and then, you know, the government loves a lot of letters. So you do that letter for the student. We do another letter once we have yours. Then the student goes and fills out the forms and so on and so forth. So that's, in a nutshell, I mean, some of the things that we do. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to address. But, you know, if you have questions anytime with a student, just let us know.